With me now is a member of one of those committees, Democratic Congressman Bera, who just stepped out of the testimony just moments ago. Congressman, thanks for jumping on.
Kate, thanks for having me on.
We know that you can't go into details, but what are your impressions so far from Ambassador Taylor's testimony?
You know, I've known Ambassador Taylor for a while now, and you couldn't ask for a more credible witness. This is someone who's a West Point grad, a Vietnam War veteran, a lifelong public servant who cares deeply about the region and Ukraine and wants to see Ukraine be successful. So, you know, he's filling in some gaps. He's sharing with us in a pretty candid way, and you know, his experience. And again, this is someone who it'd be very hard for Republicans or Democrats to impunch.
Without, obviously, you can't go into detail, but is he filling in the gaps of why he wrote the text messages, why he put it in writing that he was so concerned about? How he put it, that it's crazy that they were holding up military aid for a political campaign?
Well, I think we could be grateful for the candidness of Active Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney last week. I think he did a great job publicly filling in the gaps here. Again, I think, you know, Ambassador Taylor's being candid with us. His memory and recollection seems to be a lot better than Ambassador Sondland was last week.
Someone noted that earlier in the show that he didn't arrive on Capitol Hill, at least, with any documents. Is there any request that he provide documents, or do you think that's not necessary?
You know, I think he's being as open and candid, and again, deeply cares about this country and this region. And I think he's doing what he can to help tell the full story.
And all the reporting going in is that he wants to lay out his kind of timeline of events, if you will, and offer context, but he doesn't want to become kind of the center of this whole thing. He wants to go back to continue doing his job in Ukraine. After what you have heard, I mean, it is this, I guess, early on in all relative terms in his testimony. After what you've heard, do you think that President Trump is going to want him to stay in that job?
I mean, what I can share is knowing him prior to his return to Ukraine and the job he's doing while he's there. We couldn't ask for a better diplomat and emissary to that region at a time when we need our best folks on the field. You know, this is a country that still has been invaded by Russia and needs that defensive help and needs a strong bipartisan U.S. support. So again, from my perspective, we couldn't ask for a better emissary to Ukraine than Bill Taylor, and hopefully the president sees it that way as well.
High praise for Bill Taylor coming from you. There is this other reporting that I want to ask you about, Congressman, from the New York Times and the Washington Post, that White House officials, including John Bolton, they were concerned how Hungary's Viktor Orban and Vladimir Putin, they were influencing the president's view on Ukraine. What do you do with that?
You know, I saw those reports. From the foreign affairs perspective, it is really disheartening if the president's taking advice from Vladimir Putin or Orban and not taking advice from his own Foreign Affairs Committee. Both in a bipartisan way, the Senate and the House strongly support our policy of supporting Ukraine, our policy of sanctions on Russia, and I would hope the president's listening to us more than he is about Vladimir Putin.
Congressman, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me on.